So since we're already talking about Ohio State a bit here with Michigan, let's get into Devin Brown, backup quarterback for Ohio State, who he stuck with the team through the playoff run here. He'd entered the portal. He was really trying to keep a lot of the talk about transfer down because he said he wanted to see this thing out with the team. Obviously, you can't take the national championship away from him as he was a part of the run as the backup quarterback. But the long rumored spot for him has been Cal. And almost immediately after the game, the Pete Nakos predictions started to pop for Cal. And this is going to be a really interesting situation developing in the Cal QB room because you have Jaron Sagapolatelli, who was signed with Oregon, got out of that letter of intent, and then signed with Cal, 5-star out of Hawaii, who really made that move because it was an easier path to start. You're bringing in Devin Brown now, a guy who's been in college for 3 years, only has 2 years of eligibility. He's not going over there to take a backseat to a true freshman coming in. He's a highly talented. Look at his numbers from Utah in high school. Had like 58 touchdowns his senior year. Big dude, big arm, can move a little bit. Again, hasn't had the opportunity really at Ohio State. They went and got Will Howard this offseason. But that Cal quarterback room, you lose Fernando Mendoza, and you come back and you land 2 highly talented passers at that position. And to me, you're in a really good spot now. If you're a Cal fan, you have to feel pretty good about that room.
Yeah, very interesting. You had the number 3 quarterback in the portal, right? Leave your school to enter the portal. Somebody who's led your program 2 consecutive bowl games and has really been the face of the program, the burrito everybody knows about, and just the post-game interview against Stanford, the great game against Miami with College Game Day in town. It was all about Fernando Mendoza. Now, your quarterback room has arguably improved, even though you lost him and you also lost his backup. So, looking at Devin Brown, the comp that you've had since high school, and I think continues to be the comp, not in terms of impact. I'm not saying this is an NFL starting quarterback, but just in terms of the way they play. Kind of that Sam Darnold, similar size, basketball player. Sam Darnold is also a basketball player. Great athlete, really, really quick for his size, 4 shuttle, a ton of experience. He's class of 22, so now entering into his 4th year. You would have to say that he is the favorite over Sagapolatelli. Now, he didn't go there. It's about Jaron now, Sagapolatelli, to be the backup. If he wanted to be the backup, he would have stayed at Oregon. He thought that the path to start there was trickier. So now you got a guy coming in with Brown that has multiple years of eligibility and is going to be the favorite because of his experience and the fact that he himself was really ranked just where Sagapolatelli was only, in 2022 as opposed to 2025 class. So someone with comparable talent, more experience coming into your spot, he cannot be happy about it. For a while, this was something that was rumored before the Sagapolatelli thing went down. So I thought this was going to go away, once that opportunity came up, and it was just sort of a timing thing. But the fact that he stayed with Cal through this process is extremely interesting. And if you're Coach Wilcox, you're probably going to lose one of these guys, depending who loses the quarterback battle. Maybe it's just, listen, we got to win. We want to keep making bowls. We want to keep pushing forward here in the ACC. Let them battle it out. Let the best man win. Devin Brown is not some journeyman. He's got physical ability as well. You saw what Kyle McCord did when he went to Syracuse, coming from Ohio State, and the success he's had. Of course, we all know about Joe Burrow, who followed a similar path as an Ohio State backup and then ended up being, McCord was a starter. Burrow was a backup, ended up being one of the best quarterbacks in the world. Not saying this is going to happen for Brown, just saying the fact that he hasn't played a ton to this point doesn't mean he cannot be a big-time ACC player.
And Canes Cats Heat 305 makes the point as well that, of course, you have the fact that he was committed there for 9 months. And I will say, if you are Sagapolatelli, it might be a little bit different too, because at Oregon you have Dante Moore in front of you. You have Akili Smith Jr. in your same class coming in with you. Here, it's Devin Brown, and then it's hypothetically you're the next man up, right? So The question, though, is Devin Brown hasn't played much football, has 2 years of eligibility left. If he blows the doors off of it this year, yeah, maybe he goes, but you don't really see guys like that just play 1 year, have a good year, and go these days. Like, we always talk about the experience of the position. I don't see him as a one and done guy. So that's what makes it a little different. It's not a one and done situation with him necessarily.
And by the way, to be clear, this is not official at this point,
right?
Right? I should be clear about that. This is not an official commitment. This is just a crystal ball, but this is something that's been percolating for a while. So the fact that after Sagapolitelli makes his decision and enrolls, this gets predicted right after Ohio State wins the championship. Of course, Brown was with that team. Very, very interesting, and we'll see how it develops. But if you're Ohio State, you better be sure that Julian Sain is better than Devin Brown. I mean, you just won a national championship. Your program is at the absolute peak of its powers. You definitely don't want to take a step back by picking the wrong quarterback. So one thing to monitor here is if Devin Brown does go to Cal, and let's say it's Julian Sain ends up being the starting quarterback for Ohio State next year. Neither of those two things are guaranteed. Let's just play through the hypothetical. If Brown has one of these monster seasons in the ACC like a Kyle McCord had, and then you look at Sain and he's disappointing, maybe the size, maybe the athletic ability and arm talent isn't what you expected from a five-star player. He's not the most physically gifted five-star you've ever seen. Could be interesting to watch. Again, I'm not going to be too worried for Ohio State. They just won the national championship. The champagne is still on their jackets here as we record this on Tuesday morning. But something to consider. This is not a slam dunk that Julian Sain is a better quarterback than Devin Brown, if that's indeed the path that Ohio State goes on.
Yeah, and you see his highlights, his high school highlights running here. Not much from college. There is some stuff we would get hit with copyright, but you can see that. I mean, the big arm that he has, big hands, just grip and rip.
The release, the overall fluidity, and it just reminds me a lot of Sam Darnold. You see the lateral quickness there. I mean, this is a big-time player. If this guy was coming out of high school and you're watching this film, you're saying, all right, Cal's got their quarterback of the future. Who's next? So that's kind of the interesting part about this is it's not one guy with experience who's more of a lesser talented guy versus a super talented freshman. These are guys that are similar high school recruits, one of whom has many, many more years of experience playing with Ohio State for the last 3 years. So very interesting quarterback battle. If you're Cal, you need to be the most active program in the country in the spring transfer window for wide receivers. You've added some, but you need to keep putting talent into that room because you got two quarterbacks who can go.